In this session, I will be basically introducing to you guys this package called Tidyverse. Before watching this session, please make sure that you've downloaded the two packages, Gapminder and DeepLayer, so that we can proceed with our exercises. So the first two parts that I want to introduce are data wrangling and data visualization. The purpose of data wrangling is to select a specific subset of data or observations from a huge chunk of data so that you can read and analyze data more easily. And the purpose of data visualization is for you to understand the relationship between different variables in your data set more clearly. So I will start by talking about data wrangling. So before going to the exercises, please remember to read the packages by using this library verb. The first really basic and common verb that I want to introduce is the future verb. For example, you want to select the observations from a specific year, say 2007. Then you can use this future verb by putting year equals to 2007 inside the brackets. But remember that you have to use two equal signs between year and 2007. So if you want to select a range of observations from a specific country, such as the United States, what you have to do is that you use country equals to United States. But do not forget that because United States is a word, it's not a number. So please put the quotation marks around the country name. And you can easily combine the different filters by putting a comma sign in between. Another basic verb is the arrange verb, and it will rank the values of a variable from the lowest to the highest. And sometimes you might want to have it in the opposite order. Then you can use this descending verb inside the brackets so that it ranks the values from the highest to the lowest instead. For some variables, such as the population, the range of values is too large, so that you can use this mutate verb to change it into a different unit. So by dividing population by a million, you can change the unit of the population. And also you can multiply the GDP per capita by population, so you can get a new variable called the total GDP per country. And please remember that in data wrangling and data visualization, when you want to combine different operations, you have to add this pipe operator after your codes. Okay, so now let's move on to data visualization. So sometimes we want to create a different variable from filtering or from mutation. So how can we do that? The way to do that is to use this arrow pointing to the left, so we can create a new variable. After you limit your data to a specific subset, you might want to demonstrate it or illustrate it in a more visual way. Then how to do that is to use this ggplot2 package. So you read this package, and then you specify all the elements of the ggplot that you want. Most importantly, you have to specify the data, the x variable, the y variable, and in order to demonstrate all the points on the scatter plot, what you have to do is add this draw point verb. ggplot2 is a really flexible package, so you can change the settings of your scatter plot. So you can add the color aesthetic or the size aesthetic to make it more visually appealing. For example, you can add this color equals to continent inside the bracket to show different continents with different colors. And because inside the scatter plots, the different points represent different countries, if you want to indicate the different population sizes of the countries, you can use this size equals to population. So it assigns larger size points to the countries with larger populations. And if your x variable or y variable is too large to read, you can use them in a log scale by adding scale underscore x or y underscore log and brackets to make them look better. So please change the settings for your own ggplot2 and you can see the changes that are happening to your plots in your own RStudio. So now I will be moving on to the next part, which is grouping and summarizing. So the summarize verb is also a really commonly used verb, and you can obtain all the summary statistics by using this verb. So similar to the filter verb, you have to indicate the mean or the sum, the median, minimum or maximum in the brackets so that the package will know what kind of summary statistics you want to calculate. And you can combine different calculations and show them on different columns by using this comma sign between your different orders. And as shown on the left-hand side of the slide, you can actually group your data by continent, by year, or by a combination of year and continent. And if you want to do a longitudinal analysis, you can actually plot your data with X as your year and Y as a specific variable. And in that case, you will see the trend of your variable over time. If you want to start your Y-axis at 0, you can add this verb called expand score limits brackets with Y equals to 0. And we'll move on to the last part. So in the last part, I basically talk about some other ways of visualizing data. So the first way is the line plot. So in that case, we are not looking at specific points. Instead, we're looking at a trend demonstrated by a line. So instead of using jump point, we're using jump line. And for the bar plot, we are not using jump line or jump point. We're instead using jump column, and we can see the different heights of the columns. And for histogram, it shows the distribution of a specific variable. And inside the aesthetics, we don't have y-axis. We only have x-axis. So we only put x equals to life expectancy, for example, inside the bracket. And for the box plot, there is a specific verb called jump underscore box plot for it. And it might also be a really good way of demonstrating the different aspects of your data. And similar to what I said before, you can change the different aesthetics. For example, you can add the colors to the different continents, or you can let your y-axis starting at 0 by adding this expand underscore limits. And importantly, you can also add a title by using this verb called ggtitle equals to brackets, and then you put your title within the quotation marks because it is a word. But do remember that for some commands, you have to add it after the bracket. But for the aesthetics, you have to add it inside the bracket. For example, if you want to start your y-axis at 0, or you want to change your values into a log scale, you have to add the commands after the bracket. But if you want to add the colors or the sizes of different points, you have to do it inside the bracket. So this is the end of this really short introduction to tidyverse, data wrangling, and data visualization. But if you have more questions or issues, you might want to find information on DataCamp. It has many free and paid courses where it teaches different ways of data wrangling and data visualization, which you might find really helpful in your future research. And if you have different questions, there is a really high chance that other people also face similar types of questions. So in that case, you might go to Stack Overflow or our bloggers, so you might see how other people tackled or addressed those questions. As a beginner, you don't need to remember every single code, and you don't need to be so afraid of making mistakes. And only by understanding the logics behind different codes and by using different codes for your own research, you will find practice and exercises to be really interesting. And all the information and codes that I mentioned in this TA session is purely based on David Robinson's course at DataCamp called Introduction to the Tidyverse. So please take his course if you're interested and take notes like I did when I took his course.